Live from KSAT 12, the Nightbeat starts right now.
More than 400 positive cases added in Bexar County on the same day schools get the green light to reopen from the state. As the cases rise, the city also looking to hire help with the response to COVID-19.
Metro Health is looking to fill more than 70 temporary positions. Those listings are on the city's website. And Bexar County is hoping to help small businesses by giving out free masks next week.
Let's take a look right now at the latest numbers. The total number of COVID-19 cases in Bexar County now standing at 5,550, while more than 2,000 people have recovered. Now more than 3,000 people are fighting the illness. The number of deaths increasing by 2 today for a total of 92.
When it comes to the number of those hospitalized, 267 people are in the hospital. 92 are in the intensive care unit. While the hospital bed capacity remains okay, there are concerns elsewhere.
The staffing is becoming concerning. That's what's going to zap us on available beds if we're not careful, because more and more hospitals, the city, the fire department, the police department, everyone's starting to experience more COVID positives, and they're required to go home for that mandatory 14 days or until they convalesce.
There is a rise in cases of younger people being admitted to the hospital. San Antonio Mayor Ron Nirenberg also warned, while there is an obvious strain to your health, a stay in the hospital can also place a strain on people financially. He continues to recommend that people wear masks and stay 6 feet apart to avoid infection.
Meanwhile, teachers across Bexar County say they are ready to return to the classroom this fall, but they also have concerns. Today, Governor Greg Abbott announced that masks will not be mandatory, but school districts will be left to decide.
The Night Team's Patty Santos tells us many area school districts were already looking on a plan and working on a plan for in-person classrooms, but teacher unions want to be able to have a say.
Talk to any teacher, and the one thing they're going to say that they miss about the job is the kids.
For 8th grade U.S. history teacher Adrian Rena, there's a sense of excitement and also some hesitation about the new school year.
There's no shortage of concerns, and really the number one is just the health and safety of students.
The San Antonio Teachers Alliance leader says as school districts prepare a back-to-school plan, those working with the kids daily need to be included in the conversation.
Teachers are the best experts for their classroom. Custodians are the experts in the school building. You know, our bus drivers, everyone is an expert in what they do. And so the best decisions are made when everyone is at the table.
Parents and teachers say mistakes could be costly.
They're concerned for themselves, for their families, for their students and their families. You know, in our district, we have a lot of multi-generational households, students that go home to, you know, their grandparents, their abuelitos, their abuelitas, and we know that that is a risk for all of us in our communities.
Local districts have already said face-to-face and remote learning will likely be an option. SAISD and NEISD say they're finalizing a plan but waiting for guidelines from the Texas Education Agency to determine the specific options and safety protocols. But NISD says just because the governor won't require health screenings and face masks, quote, does not mean that our plan will not include precautions like these. Educators say the task ahead will already be a difficult one.
The elementary level to the middle and the high school level, of course, we have our own difficulties in keeping students apart from each other.
The union says they'll be pushing for hazard pay for their support staff. They have also put together a coalition of educators, community members, and medical experts to help provide input to the school districts. We can also tell you that many of the school districts have also put out community surveys in hopes of getting feedback on a reopening plan. Steve, EC's.
Thank you, Patty. A reminder, there are walk-up, pop-up testing sites that are rotating each week for COVID-19. Today, people started lining up about 6 in the morning. The test ran out by noon. Metro Health will have free testing again at Burbank High School and Jordan Middle School this week. The walk-up testing will continue tomorrow and Saturday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Each site will test 175 people per day at each location, but they plan to add more testing next week. And by the way, there are also 4 free drive-through testing sites, but it's very important you make an appointment beforehand. While some locations listed already have several spots filled for the next several days, Metro Health Director Don Emmerich says tonight the Freeman Coliseum location has more openings and the ability to get people tests sooner. You can call the numbers on your screen or 311 to help get registered for testing.
Meantime, summer camps are in full swing, and some parents may be wondering whether they should send their kids to camp. The night team's Tiffany Huertas with the safety protocols the YMCA has put in place and why they say some parents can feel safe.
There's my picture.
6-year-old Madison has been coming to summer camp at the YMCA on Thousand Oaks for 3 weeks.
She really likes coming. She's super excited to come every day. She's having a good time.
While COVID-19 is still in our community, Madison's mom, Amanda Garcia, feels her daughter is safe here.
I always tell her, make sure you wash your hands all the time.
From the moment parents arrive to the facility with their child,
we have to take their temperature, the child's temperature, before they enter our facility. Parents have to sanitize before they sign them in. And then after that, they're allowed to come into the facility.
But parents and visitors are not allowed inside. Program Director Isamar Bernal says they are deep cleaning the building constantly.
We have to wipe down tables, sanitize everything. We have special equipment from the facility that's used in the gym that we can use as well in our rooms.
The campers here are ages 5 to 13 years old.
In the years past, we've had maybe like up to 20, 25 kids in our group. So now we keep it to 12, and that's all you'll see in one room at once.
Bernal says they are following CDC guidelines and will continue to update their rules as the situation changes.
We have like hula hoops that kind of show the kids like this is how distant you have to be from one another. When we're outside, of course, the catch games that we provide for them, they require that social distance from each other.
Garcia feels confident the camp staff is doing everything they can to keep the kids safe.
I know everybody's doing as much as they can.
Tiffany Huertas, KSAT 12 News.
Now, the YMCA says it has only been requiring staff to wear masks, and they're working through the logistical details of the new executive order mandating face coverings at all businesses when social distancing is not possible. Well, another decision on DACA today, but is it permanent? The Supreme Court blocking the Trump administration's efforts to end the program. Crowds gathered outside the Supreme Court cheering about the decision. The Supreme Court upheld the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program, also known as DACA. It protects hundreds of thousands of immigrants brought to the U.S. as children from deportation. The Obama administration put the program in place in 2012. President Donald Trump has pushed to end the program, and the court did leave a loophole to continue that effort. Coming up later in this newscast, the tweets from the president and the emotional reaction from one senator on Capitol Hill following today's ruling.
Tomorrow is set to be the last day for San Antonio Police Department Assistant Chief Anthony Trevino. Multiple sources confirming the news of his retirement to KSAT 12 and our defenders. Trevino joined SAPD in the early 1990s. He served as interim chief at the start of 2015 and took on the role for more than 9 months before current chief William McManus came out of retirement to rejoin the force. Back in 2014, Trevino indicated he wanted the position permanently. We reached out to the San Antonio Police Department for a comment today and still waiting to hear back about what they have to say about Trevino's departure. Meanwhile, as conversations around race and policing become louder, symbols that represent the Confederacy, which fought for slavery, are under scrutiny. And just west of downtown, a statue of Christopher Columbus could be up for a vote on its removal. District 1 City Council member Roberto Trevino wants it on next week's agenda, saying it could be moved fairly soon if City Council approves it. It's an issue that many have voiced an opinion on.
Because he didn't do anything wrong. He's Columbus.
Christopher Columbus brought the institution of slavery, which was enslaving the native people.
We as a city need to pay attention to what our community has been saying for a long time.
The Christopher Columbus Italian Society, which donated the statue in the 1950s, is actually on board with the move. They say to be respectful and considerate of what it symbolizes and how it impacts others. If the City Council votes to have the statue moved, the location will be undisclosed at this time.
Well, they were charged in the deadly shooting of Rayshard Brooks, a man shot in the back in Atlanta. Both former officers accused in the case turned themselves over to authorities today. Devin Brosnan left the Fulton County Jail after turning himself in today. He's accused of standing on Brooks's shoulder after he'd been shot. Meantime, his partner, former officer Garrett Rolfe, is facing 11 charges. Prosecutors say he shot Brooks twice in the back last week after a breathalyzer was given, and Brooks ran off with an officer's taser.
The city of Atlanta says you cannot even fire a taser at someone who's running away, so you certainly can't fire a gun, a handgun, at someone who is running away.
Former Officer Rolfe could face life in prison or the death penalty if convicted. His lawyer says he acted out of fear for his own safety and the civilians around him. Well, tomorrow is Juneteenth, and many celebrations are happening online this year. Tomorrow will mark the moment news came down in Galveston that the Civil War was over and all slaves were officially free. The announcement came nearly 2.5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation. Right now on KSAT.com, we have a list of local celebrations, including an online panel discussion and a concert.
And tomorrow we will be discussing the history and relevancy of Juneteenth. African American Studies professor, history professor Carrie Lattimore from Trinity University will be joining me for the live stream tomorrow afternoon. It's going to begin at 2:30 in the afternoon on KSAT.com as we experience a very rough period in our nation as we confront issues of systemic racism. What message does Juneteenth have for our nation today? It's one of several questions that'll be discussed during tomorrow's live stream. Still to come tonight, the case of a bar exploding continues to develop out of Houston. Tonight, new video in the case and the new clues investigators are looking at.
And we bring in infectious disease expert Dr. Ruth Berggren for tonight's KSAT Q&A, a live discussion amid this second wave of coronavirus. Coming up.
And New York is seeing progress amid this pandemic, but could there be a new epicenter for coronavirus in the United States? Next on the Nightbeat. A new set of coronavirus statistics this week. 10 states logged their highest 7-day average of new cases per day since this pandemic actually began. Now experts are closely monitoring Florida, which could soon be home to the next epicenter of the outbreak. ABC's Inez de la Catera tracking the coronavirus response around the nation.
A record increase in cases out of Florida. The state's Department of Health reporting more than 3,000 new people diagnosed with COVID-19 in the last day. Governor Ron DeSantis insisting the surge is linked to increased testing, but FEMA charts obtained by ABC News show that Alabama, Florida, Arizona, South Carolina, Mississippi, and Texas have concerning percentage of positivity rates, meaning no matter how many people are being tested, a higher percentage of the population is testing positive.
No, we're not shutting down. We're going to go forward.
At least 20 states now seeing a rise in coronavirus cases. The mayor of Phoenix, Arizona, saying she believes the rise in cases is linked to the state's rapid reopening.
We opened much more quickly than other communities, and businesses such as nightclubs where you have indoor situations and close transmission situations have really contributed to the spread.
In New York, though, great progress. Numbers there way down. New York City looking at moving into phase 2 of reopening on Monday.
Get on your mark, get set, because here we go on Monday.
Meanwhile, President Trump moving full steam ahead with his rally in Tulsa, Oklahoma this Saturday, even as cases are rising rapidly. The campaign says it'll be handing out hand sanitizer and face masks, but won't require people to wear them.
This could be a super spreader. You could see our numbers go up. 2 weeks after this event, I can promise you that we are going to see issues in this community.
The nation's top infectious disease expert, Dr. Anthony Fauci, telling the Daily Beast earlier this week that he would personally not attend the Tulsa rally because he's older and that it would be better to avoid being inside a stadium with large crowds. Inez de la Catera, ABC News, Washington.
We've got some new video in of that arson case at a Houston bar. Moments before that bar exploded, we're getting our first look at the suspects in this case. They appear to be dousing the property with some sort of liquid before setting it on fire, and that led to a powerful blast. The crime left the bar destroyed. Fire investigators believe the people they're looking for in this case may have burns or injuries from the blast.
The damage that was caused, if you saw the debris field that morning, was significant. The damage that it caused to the neighboring residents, even as far as a block and a half away, was significant.
The bar blast happened early in the morning last Friday when no one was at the bar. Investigators say no deaths were reported.
Well, KSAT is taking an in-depth look at the unrest we've seen across the country since the killing of George Floyd. The movement has been decades in the making. So what's next? The nation is reeling, and many people have wondered what is the most effective way to help support causes to end systemic racism. KSAT Explains is a weekly event, and this week's episode involves a conversation within our community. This episode of KSAT Explains is available on demand right now. You can stream it through your devices like Roku, Apple TV, or Fire TV. Just download the KSAT TV app.
Live cam tonight. Still pretty warm, 83 degrees out there, and
humidity.
Humidity, yeah. Today a muggy day.
Very muggy day, and that humidity did lead to a few pop-up showers here and there, and even the airport earlier this morning had one of those isolated and brief downpours, but very efficient downpour. Dropped about 1/4 of an inch of rain in that short period of time. 76 in the morning, the 93 was our high temperature. And usually Del Rio is one of the hottest locations on the map. Today they had a high of 95. A little extra cloud cover out west, and Uvalde only made it to 87 because of extra cloud cover from a thunderstorm complex this morning. So let's talk about the newest Drought Monitor. First, I want to give you a baseline, something to compare. This is the last and last night we had an outflow boundary kickstart, some showers that were very efficient as well. From basically Laughlin to Brackettville, Uvalde, about an inch of rain last night between about 10 p.m. and about 1 a.m. from that outflow boundary that kicked up some showers. So hey, every so often we get lucky in these patterns, and the door is still open. The opportunities will be there. They're just not going to be very numerous, and we can't expect anything too widespread. The key is the upper level high, the big blue H. It's basically on the west coast of Mexico. That's where it's centered. So it's more favorable for us. It keeps that possibility of a little bit of rain in the forecast. Whereas when that's right overhead, all it does is sit and press on us and really suppress any formation. But this high is going to be off to the west of us in the days ahead. So we'll still have the opportunity for some of those little showers and isolated downpours, which can be efficient. We'll still have the chance of them coming through, and that's all the way through the weekend and into next week. So we're basically giving it a 20% chance every day, and at times we may have to increase that to a 30% chance depending on the day, but that's a wait and see situation. Either way, mainly isolated in nature, but remember, they can still be very efficient, so cross your fingers. 80 at Stinson right now. We're 81 in Bulverde and Comfort.
Of this proposal and what's going down. Plus, Jimbo Fisher, Aggies head coach, he's confident about the season and feels week 1 is going to look pretty good coming up.
We're planning on having football season. We're planning on being able to start on August the 3rd and until somebody tells us otherwise. And so if that's the case, you need every day you can to get yourself there.
O'Connor head football coach David Molesky plans to kick off the regular season Thursday, August 27th against Brandeis in Big Board Sports. 13 UT football players have tested positive for COVID-19 or are presumed positive, the school announced in a release today. That's up from 2 positive tests last week. All 13 are self-isolating. UT also said through contact tracing, 10 more athletes are currently in self-quarantine and are asymptomatic at this time. 4 football players have tested positive for COVID-19 antibodies. Any additional updates will be reported as that information becomes available. Tom Herman and the Horns are scheduled to open the 2020 season Saturday, September 5th at home with South Florida. As of now, the NCAA plans to start the football season on time, releasing an improved timetable accounting for the lack of spring practice among many schools because of COVID-19. So voluntary workouts are underway. Team workouts can begin on July 13th with a max of 8 hours per week. On July 24th, workouts can include walkthroughs and team and individual meetings up to 20 hours per week. Then on August 7th, regular preseason practice can begin. Now, last week, Coach Herman said he wasn't thrilled with the extended workout schedule.
I was hoping, for a lot of us, that we're not able to participate in spring practice, that we would have the ability to have some sort of full speed activity. Every proposal that I've seen thus far, shows a lot of walkthroughs, a lot of meetings, but no real, 11 on 11, 7 on 7, full speed activities, and that was disappointing. Now, certainly at this juncture, I'm not complaining either. We'll take everything that we can get.
Texas A&M Athletics Director Ross Bjork says the number of positive COVID-19 cases among A&M student athletes has increased, as reported by the Eagle. Bjork declined to give the exact numbers, saying the department is following the reporting guidelines of the Brazos County Health District and that the increase was expected. The Aggies will start the new season at Kyle Field Saturday, September 5th with Abilene Christian. Head coach Jimbo Fisher was asked, based on what he's hearing and how things are opening back up, what does he think the first game for the Aggies will look like?
I expect it's going to be pretty close to normal. It may not be completely normal and things, but I think we'll have masks and I think there'll be social distancing, but I think it'll be with groups of people, and I would expect that, maybe 75% or more would be in the stands by then. That's just me speculating based on how things are going now.
Now, if the current 50% capacity remained in place by the start of the season, Kyle Field could allow a little more than 51,000 fans to attend the games. And coming up next, we will check in with Brennan and O'Connor, where student athletes are very busy. Take you to Brennan High School, where the Bears are going through summer voluntary workouts. The football team is getting ready to kick off the season Saturday, August 29th with the Reagan Rattlers. The strength and conditioning drills are different this season because of COVID-19 restrictions to keep the kids safe. We asked Justino Escobar his thoughts on the COVID rules.
It's pretty tough, pretty hectic. The team's not a fan of it personally, but we know what we have to do in order to keep safe and keep the team in a standard-based situation, so that way we have a better chance with all of our players healthy and good, not sick, back on the field for the season.
Justino said the Bears connection was off on day one, but now they're finding a groove as they ready for the season. And over at O'Connor High School, the Panthers can't use the football field because it's under construction. Coach Molesky said they broke ground around the middle of May, and the new turf field is scheduled to be completed August 1st. The Panthers have a lot of space on campus to work, so no football field isn't slowing them down. And we also noticed some of the kids were outside lifting weights.
First of all, the parameters you all put on us, it limits you in terms of the numbers of kids that you can have in the space that you have for a weight room. And then also the number of coaches that you have to have with a really small number of kids. So it's more practical for us to be outside because then we can operate underneath the guidelines of outside, which gives us more kids per coach.
Coach added that it is nice to see the kids back on campus because it was around, March 12th, 13th when he last saw them all.
Yeah, and I think it's if it's within the rules to have the weight room outside, why not?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Maybe better in June than August.
I agree.
Thank you, Larry.
Up next, our live KSAT Q&A with infectious disease expert Dr. Ruth Berggren, what she thinks about the chance that schools are going to open up on time. Coming up. It's our KSAT Q&A segment where we take our questions and your questions to experts and try to separate some of the facts from the fiction that are out there. And of course, there are a lot of questions about COVID-19 and the surge we're in, whether you call it first surge, second surge, whatever you call it. Clearly something is going on trend-wise. We are joined by Dr. Ruth Berggren from the Long School of Medicine at UT Health San Antonio. Doctor, as always, thank you for joining us. And we've got a lot of viewer questions about school. There are a lot of parents out there that are wondering, are we rushing too soon to go back? A lot of schools going back early August. What do you say to parents out there that are having concerns right now?
I think everybody should keep in mind that what matters is not so much the dates, but the data. And we need to, of course, try to plan, which does mean you need to start thinking about dates, but understand that whether those dates make sense or not at the time is going to depend on what we're seeing in the community in terms of new cases, hospitalizations, and hospital stress. So that's really important, and it can be highly variable from one community to another. So that makes it tough to say what exactly is going to happen here in San Antonio or in Bexar County. And we use models to try to help us predict those sorts of things.
Now,
Yes, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, we have tools, and the CDC has posted on their website a really useful tool for people to assess whether their schools are ready to open. It's available to the public, and I urge parents to go to cdc.gov and take a look. And that walks you through the thought process that you need to go through to decide, is it safe? And the first question that you ask is, first of all, is our school able to take precautions to protect the kids and the employees that are at risk for a bad outcome? So that could be, say, kids with asthma, older teachers who are over the age of 64, or people that have underlying other health conditions. And if you are not prepared to take care of those people, then you need to put the brakes on reopening and be a little more careful. If you are ready, and if that reopening is in keeping with local, state, and regional guidelines, then you have another set of questions that you need to ask, and they include, can you mask? Can you screen when people are coming in? Kids and employees, can you take their temperature, and can you screen for their symptoms? And if that's not possible, you really need to put the brakes again and get ready before you open the doors of the school.
Staying on the topic of schools, Dr. Berggren, one of the things that we learned today was that the Texas Education Agency, the TEA, is expected to release these guidelines this Tuesday. What do you think these guidelines should include?
Well, I fully endorse what I've seen on the CDC website, and we really need to have masking going on. We need to have small groups of kids wherever possible. It's going to require some modifications. We need to have classrooms set up so people can be sitting far enough apart where they're not touching each other, not violating that 6-foot space. There needs to be a lot of work done to clean the environment and make sure that hand washing is emphasized and that the hand sanitizer is available. But one of the most important things is masking and also screening for symptoms on walking in the door. And I think that if you can't do that, it's really not safe.
Dr. Berggren, I know that you're not an emergency room doctor, but I do know that you do rounds. I know that you are in touch with people who are in the emergency room, and you are on occasion down there. What are you seeing in the emergency room? Are you seeing the trend in numbers that we're seeing countywide at University Hospital?
It's for sure happening at University Hospital. We are the county hospital. We have a large and busy emergency room. Lots of patients come to us. One day this week, I rounded with the doctors that are on the COVID dedicated service, and they told me that the night before they had 12 new patients come in and go to the intensive care unit. So a lot of these folks that are coming in right now are younger than the ones we've seen in the past. We've had people in their late teens and early 20s not only get sick enough to come to the hospital, but get very, very sick in the intensive care unit. So we're seeing a definite uptick. We're seeing beds being taken up by COVID patients that weren't being taken up before, and we can anticipate, based on modeling and predictions of the curves and the trends that we're on, that this is going to double in a couple of weeks, and we're going to be having trouble finding the beds.
And just following up on that, Dr. Ruth, I know the concern several months ago was that we would not have enough beds, we would not have enough PPE to get us through this crisis. Is that still the concern right now?
So if we don't reel it in and curtail these new cases by improving our masking and the social distancing, it is possible that we could see a surge that would take us to a peak of like 1,900 hospitalizations in a day, need for 1,900 COVID beds by the middle of August. Okay, well, that's problematic because our current COVID bed capacity is about 1,400. So we could exceed our capacity, and we could be getting to that by late July if we don't do something to curtail the new cases. But here's the good news. Our models actually show that this can be done, and it doesn't require going back to sheltering in place. What it requires is universal masking, social distancing, and avoiding having people congregate in indoor settings. And we need to have people avoid going to crowded bars, gyms, and indoor parties. We need people to move these kinds of activities outdoors and reduce the number of people that are present, reduce the closeness of the people, increase the distance between the people, and do all the other things that we've talked about, like hand washing. But we don't have to completely shut down the economy. And so I am encouraged by these models, but it requires that everybody has to step up and do their part and wear their mask and remember the rules.
I want to put up the graph that we have. We have one of those models that I know that you at UT Health San Antonio found especially helpful in this whole thing. And if we put it up, you can see that you see the blue or the gray line that goes up rapidly. These are the number of hospitalizations. So Dr. Bergeron, correct me if I'm wrong, but you've got the gray line that is the rise, and that's what the trajectory we're currently on. And then the red line is what happens if we practice with the masking and the social distancing, correct?
That is exactly right. And those are predictions that are not pulled out of the sky. They're not pulled out of the air. These are specific to San Antonio, and they take into account the size of our population density, how many people have to use public transportation or not, and the dates at which we put in our mitigation measures into practice, and also the dates at which we started relaxing restrictions. So all of these things are factored in, and this is San Antonio specific data. And if we do nothing, we're going to see that blue-gray curve that goes up pretty high and peaks around mid-August. If we reel it in with our masking and our social distancing and decreasing the congregation of people, then we're going to see that much, much flatter curve where we never get close to exceeding the maximum bed capacity that we have in San Antonio. That's a far preferable outcome.
How do you make up, I mean, if we have close to 2,000 patients that need beds and we only have 1,400 beds. I mean, are we talking, obviously Freeman Coliseum needs to be brought back into action. Are we talking field hospitals? Are we talking maybe places that aren't currently used for hospital beds being used? Is that what we're talking about?
All of the above, including every hospital has post-operative acute care units that can get turned into COVID care areas. We have floors that are largely used by people that are having some sort of physical rehabilitation. Those people might be able to move elsewhere to other facilities so that we could open up those slots to provide care for COVID patients. It will take a lot of work and a lot of creativity and a lot of organizing. Fortunately, we have a really good emergency response group, the STRAC, and the Emergency Operations Center, thinking carefully about those things and planning ahead. So I believe that we can expand our bed capacity in San Antonio. But nevertheless, we can't get away from the fact that curve that shows if we do nothing differently than what we're doing now is going to take us up above the number of beds that we have available.
Dangerous prospect. Thanks to you so much, Dr. Ruth Berggren, as always, for your time and for your expertise.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Berggren. And again, this can be avoided.
Yeah.
Masks,
sure
hygiene, social distancing, all of those things. We've done it before. We can do it again.
Sure we can, and we need to.
Thank you, Doctor. We'll be right back.
Never miss a story. Watch live or when you want. San Antonio's latest news and weather, streaming free on KSAT TV.
A $5,000 reward being offered for information that leads to the arrest in a robbery case at an HEB on the city's north side. It happened at the store in the 8500 block of Northwest Military Highway. That's the Alon Town Center. Officers say the suspect walked up to a cashier and demanded money. He then ran off with the cash and took off in an SUV. Anyone with information is asked to call Crime Stoppers at 210-224-STOP.
Do you recognize these people? They're accused of trying to use stolen credit cards at a Converse gas station back on May 25th. New Braunfels police shared their photos on Facebook. They say the cards were stolen from someone in New Braunfels earlier that day. If you have any information on who these people are, contact the Comal County Crime Stoppers at 830-620-TIPS.
Well, the country's highest court ruling against President Donald Trump's decision to end the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program, or DACA. But that doesn't mean the legal battle is over. ABC's Zareen Shah has the latest.
Celebrations breaking out on the Supreme Court steps for America's dreamers. The Supreme Court blocking President Trump for now from ending the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program known as DACA.
I'm surprised, to be honest. I was expecting the worst.
Around 650,000 immigrants brought to America as children and provided legal status under DACA are now protected from deportation and allowed to work legally. Thursday's decision keeping hope alive for people like Crescia Rivera, who came from El Salvador when she was 8 and is now a medical student.
This decision means that I will be able to apply to residency programs and hopefully achieve my dream of becoming a surgeon.
Conservative Chief Justice John Roberts joining the 4 liberal justices, writing the majority 5-4 ruling, saying Trump's administration violated federal law when rescinding the program in the way he did, calling his decision arbitrary and capricious. Roberts said the program could still end, writing, "We do not decide whether DACA or its rescission are sound policies. We address only whether the agency provided a reasoned explanation for its action." President Trump making it clear he will try ending it, partly tweeting, "I am asking for a legal solution on DACA, not a political one, consistent with the rule of law. The Supreme Court is not willing to give us one, so now we have to start this process all over again." President Trump making it clear that DACA will be a major election issue. His Democratic challenger, Joe Biden, though, calling the decision a victory, saying that on day one as president, he would send a bill to Congress to make it permanent. Zoreen Shah, ABC News, Los Angeles.
Live cam tonight, 81 degrees out there.
Very muggy, sticky day today. We had a few pop-up showers here and there, and one nice thunderstorm complex near and just outside of Carrizo Springs earlier this morning. It's that kind of pattern where every so often we can be fortunate and cash in on a little bit of rain. And so we're keeping those slight rain chances in the forecast here. Generally speaking, a 20% chance, but there may be situations where we need to bump it up to about a 30% chance. It's just the nature of the weather pattern. That's not going to change much. Unfortunately, it's not good widespread soaking rain, which we could use. Take a look at the drought monitor. And the area of yellow, the abnormally dry conditions, has expanded for sure compared to last week. And it's likely to continue its spread as we don't have a weather pattern that brings us a good shot at a lot of rainfall. Now, as for the state, the Panhandle could really use the rain. 27% of Texas is in drought, and that's up 5% compared to 3 months ago. And usually this is the time of year where we start to see this map become more colorful with more oranges and reds. Let's hope that's not the case, but that's generally the way we're headed right now with just these isolated pop-ups. They don't alleviate drought pretty much. I mean, we did get 1/4 inch of rain. Some of those downpours can be efficient. They're just not very widespread. 76 in the morning, 93 was our high temperature this afternoon. 81 degrees right now. We have the low clouds starting to fill in again, and we'll start the day tomorrow with those clouds in place. So temperatures are just gradually going to fall off from here on out through sunrise. Rio Medina, you're 79, 79 in Bandera. New Braunfels is 81, and Floresville currently at 82. And you look off to the west, we have very similar readings, 79 Carrizo Springs, and Cotulla checking in at 84. There's that wind off the Gulf of Mexico, so our dew point now up to 70. So it's way up there. It's in the muggy category and even oppressive in some locations, but it's what you expect this time of year. Dew points near and in the lower 70s. That's typical. So let's talk about tomorrow morning. When we wake up, we'll likely be in the mid 70s. Even in the hill country, about 73, 74 degrees. Thinking 74 here in San Antonio, Pleasanton about 77. Then we get into the afternoon and we just do it all over again, making it to 93 for the high temperature. There could be some pockets of slightly lower temperatures if we get a little extra cloud cover or in areas where the morning clouds take a little longer to burn off, which can happen. No big changes into the weekend. We keep those 20% chances all the way through Saturday and Sunday. And yeah, there is that slight chance of rain, but don't go canceling any outdoor plans. These are non-severe thunderstorms that pop up. They're just good, brief downpours that may chase you inside for a brief period of time. That's it. So keep your outdoor plans, keep everything in place. We'll see those temperatures really in the mid 90s as we get into next week. And as we talked about the past couple of nights, African dust is likely to arrive by Tuesday, Wednesday, and I'll jump into that in detail again coming up tomorrow.
Thank you, Adam.
The property taxes and the pandemic. Homeowners in San Antonio facing mounting concerns. So what does the Bexar County tax collector want you to know? It's next on the Nightbeat.
Questions involving property taxes are still coming into our newsroom. Homeowners who've lost their income are facing a June 30th deadline for their split payment. 12 on your side's Marilyn Moritz took concerns to the county's tax man.
That's a common concern that we hear. Hey, my business has been closed down for 3 months. How am I going to pay my property taxes?
Property taxes could be a chunk of change, and for those who split their taxes, the deadline to pay up is June 30th. So what's a cash-strapped taxpayer to do? We asked the tax collector, Albert Uresti.
The most important thing for them to do is to try to pay as much as they can of the second half that is due.
Because on July 1st, by law, you'll be hit with a 13% penalty for the unpaid amount. Next, he says, contact his office to set up a payment plan. That can help avoid another whammy. 20% attorney collection fees come September 1st. Payment plans are how George Arroyo manages his taxes.
I still got to pay $1,000 something. That's why I make arrangements.
Seniors, the disabled or disabled veterans struggling to get by can also get a 180-day tax deferment. Failure to pay taxes can eventually result in a tax lien or foreclosure. So bottom line,
if you come see us, we will work with you.
If you are struggling to make your payments, there are other resources that may be able to help. You can contact the United Way or dial 211. Marilyn Moritz, KSAT 12 News.
A performance that is making the rounds on social media, now hitting headlines. We'll listen in next on the Nightbeat.
The pandemic changing the game of bingo at Ingram Late Night Bingo. Our own Katrina Weber checked out the operation after the bingo hall was allowed to reopen. It's all part of the While You Were Sleeping series. We have the full article and video online at KSAT.com. Our web team keeping track of the latest numbers amid this pandemic, as well as the ongoing efforts meant to help the community right now on KSAT.com.
And the rockets regular, the bombs burn.
Well, check this out. Madison Hallberg was recording the Star-Spangled Banner for a virtual commencement at Portland State University. During the shoot, Emmanuel Henried walked by and asked if he could join. Henried is a professionally trained singer who performs with the Portland Opera. I wish we could be hearing it while I'm telling you the story. Their rendition has caused quite a stir on Facebook, with many users pointing out the importance of unity right now.
I've heard it.
It's beautiful.
It's beautiful. It's great.
Gives you chills, yeah.
Take a look at this. A snapping turtle we're snapping a picture of. This is Lord Fairfax. That's his name. The reptile found trying to cross the road in Fairfax County. Police rescued him, brought him to an animal shelter where it was determined the reptile is an alligator snapping turtle. Unlike their common snapping turtle cousins, alligator snappers are not native to Virginia. Lord Fairfax is now at the Virginia Zoo in Norfolk. Look how big he is.
He's huge.
Officials hope this 65-pound youngster can eventually grow into a healthy adult. They can weigh more than 200 pounds.
So it's a baby turtle. Wow. Amazing.
The youngster.
Yeah.
Good thing a little youngster didn't come across it with those chompers on it, right? All right, looking at temperatures, they're not going to change much. 70s in the mornings, 90s in the afternoons, and isolated pop-up afternoon storms.
GMSA at 4:30 in the morning.
Good night.